Bristol, would you like to take the microphone, please? You've got 3 minutes.
Hi, comrades. My name's David Board from the Bristol branch. The aim of this resolution, I completely take on board the standing orders points about this. The aim of this is to provide a simpler, perhaps sharper focus to what I think the class struggle grouping was aiming for, to give a voice to those millions of people who feel completely disenfranchised by our current politics, to go a little further than the agenda for hope and to demand that every single progressive electoral candidate says where they stand on these issues. Are they in some sense reformist? Sure. Do they challenge the whole basis of financialised capitalism? You bet. In a way, this motion was inspired by the comment of a young comrade at a recent Bristol meeting. He said, "It would be easier to get my generation to parade through the city wearing zombie masks than to attend a political rally." But we know where despair of that kind can lead. We're beginning to see that in France. We need to reach out to those people, to give them something to believe in again, and to come out from behind their masks. I move.
Thank you. I think what I'd like to do is to take any speakers on this motion and then we'll vote on this one before we move to the next one. So, is there any speaker against? Say who you are.
I promise not to mention the procedure.
You've got 2 minutes.
Yeah, Jim Hoyle, Stockport. More in sorrow than anger, really. I like the principle of trying to do something with the Labour Party and the Greens, but what I can't understand is the first point about what do you mean by above national average pay hikes. It's open to misunderstanding. I mean, if our comrades in Aslef were to win a pay thing, we'd all be in favour, you know. And the other thing I can't understand, if we want to pin down the Greens and the Labour on important issues, I've searched high and low, but I can't find any mention in here of anti-austerity and on the issue of immigration controls. So using what he believes to be the new procedure, I would suggest to the comrades from Bristol that they consider remitting it and they consider moving on, unless they can actually answer those points, because we need the key issues that are coming up are austerity and opposition to immigration control, and neither seem to be mentioned. But it's really important that we have an orientation to Labour and the Green Party, so I don't want to be totally negative. I just don't think this is quite right. So either answer those questions or remit it is my advice.
Thank you. Anybody else for? Can we move to the vote? What we're voting for, just to be clear, what we're voting for is that this will be a point of cooperation when we're talking to others, not policy.
They have right to reply.
My understanding is not.
Why?
My understanding, what I'm told is that they don't have the right to reply on this one. It's because it's a motion rather than a policy commission. Are we okay to go to the vote? Okay, so those in favour of this being a point of cooperation for talking to others, please show your hands, your cards. Thank you. Those against? That one's lost. Okay, we're going to move on now to number 20, McLaren, with Dave Landau. I understand as a second.
Third and last time, comrades, and it's unfortunate that it's all been in the same section despite the little break. Right, this really is a most minimalist position. It's asking for left unity to make sure that we start to think about our electoral work in a responsible way. There are 4,020, I think it is, local wards up for election on 2014's May's council elections. There will be 650 constituencies next year up for election in the general election. What we don't want, what we mustn't have, where the left clearly isn't going to be standing in more than 10 or 15% of those, is clashes within those few that the left does contest. It just does not make any sense. Now, no one's going to suggest that's going to be easy. We all know that Arthur Scargill and the SLP are not exactly well known for responding to correspondence about discussions about avoiding electoral clashes. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't make the effort to do that. So that's the first part of the motion. The second part is to go a little bit further and to talk about electoral pacts. And let's be clear about what an electoral pact is. It's not an agreement to join together. It's not a merging or an alliance of forces, as I was trying to argue we should start talking about in one of the previous motions I moved. It's simply about having an agreement to stand together where we agree with each other. It could be sharing platforms at a public meeting. It could be actually sharing leafleting and us both campaigning on the same anti-closure issue in our localities. It's again fairly low-level cooperation, but it is cooperation, and I think it's important that Left Unity nails its colours to the mast in terms of agreeing to cooperate with other parties as we begin to establish an electoral profile. And finally, we must start talking about the general election of 2015. Only 14 months away, comrades, in fact, almost certainly less than that. We've had the most severe attacks on our class, the widening of the poverty gap between rich and poor, the increased racism which will be exposed even more by UKIP come what may on May the 22nd and in the months and weeks leading up to it. And if at the very least we can't start talking to our fellow partners on the left, I accept the narrow decision that we've just made half an hour ago not to initiate talks about working with the rest of the left, but at the very least we should be saying, but we will work with you to oppose the far right, to oppose austerity, and to make sure we don't clash with each other. And let's please surpass the biggest previous left challenge there's been in this country, which was as little as 12 or 14 years ago. 2001, some of you in the room like me were part of it in 2001, where the Socialist Alliance stood 98 candidates. Let's, comrades, move and go for over 100 and give the working class a real alternative in a large part of the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Is somebody who'd like to speak against?
John Penny, crew. Come on, comrades, we're all wise old lefties here. The agenda here for us never escaping from the bubble, spending all of our time debating with a tiny...
Distance from the mic.
Are we going to spend all our time arguing in the bubble with our comrades who we've argued these issues for years? Or are we going to look outside the bubble, build a new party which actually is able to reach out to people far outside of this room? As a previous speaker said, all this is an invitation for endless internal debate, which we've seen before, we've wasted too much time on. We really have to say, Left Unity is going to be a new party, reaching outside the bubble, getting rid of a lot of the lumber ideologically we've had in the past. And this is really an invitation to sink ourselves forever into debate with a tiny group of people. There are millions of people out there we have to talk to, not tiny little groups, comrades.
Comrades, Nick Rack, Southwark, speaking in support of this and opposing the contribution that's just been made by John Penny. It's not at all talking about endless internal discussions. It's not talking about debates inside a bubble. There's no contradiction between looking outwards, campaigning, building Left Unity, developing socialist ideas, going into working class workplaces, communities, estates and so on, and championing the ideas of socialism, but also recognising that not everybody at this stage agrees with us that Left Unity is the party. there are other parties on the left, and in fact, much more is the case that there are millions of people who are potential supporters for a left party who are not looking to any of them at the moment. One of our key strengths, in addition to our socialist ideas, would be that we are the ones that are in favour of the maximum unity. The working class wants unity. And if it's rejected when we offer it to other people, then so be it. That's their responsibility. That's their fault. But we should be the ones that always stand for socialist ideas and the maximum unity of the working class. And that includes, not just in strikes or campaigns like the bedroom tax, it also includes in standing in elections. We've gone through, over the last 20 years, a plethora of names under which the left has stood on different occasions, in different guises, and we want to try to get beyond that. But to imagine that simply because we've got left unity now, that that's an end, would be a fundamental mistake. It's not Sinn Féin, it's not ourselves alone, it's us as part of a general movement that we want to work with others, and that's all that this is talking about.
Aware we're a bit losing time, do we need some more discussion? Can we go to the vote? Okay, so we're looking here at number 27, electoral strategy. Those in favour, please put your cards up. Thank you. And those against? That one's carried. Thank you.